And we are live. Hello, and welcome to the Psychic Funhouse, everybody. Uh, thank you for coming. We appreciate you, as always, being here with us on this lovely Friday evening. We hope this finds everybody well. I'm here with my lovely co host, the amazing Adrienne Stratton. Say hello, Adrienne.
Hey, hi Lawrence. Hi everyone. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy,
Hey, and
happy.
it's actually the summer solstice. Solstice.
Nice. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
First day of summer is coming up. Yeah, that's true. Is here. Yeah, very good. That's exciting. Yeah. Well, so now officially things can get warmer and nobody gets to
yeah.
complain. So there you go.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Yeah. Well, um, so hopefully everybody's getting their summer plans ready and figuring out what they're going to be doing for fun in the sun and getting plenty of sunscreen and sunblock stocked and uh, cold drinks in their coolers and travel plans, all that sort of fun stuff for summer that people look forward to.
That's
So,
right.
and hopefully they're going to pack us along as well, so we get to entertain them during the summer, and they get to have psychic funhouse summer. So, yeah.
So hey, Lawrence.
Hey,
Are you a summer person?
am I a summer person? You mean like am as far as how I'm classified, like am I winter or fall or
Oh
spring?
no, no. Well, I mean, maybe, but no. I
uh,
mean, I was thinking like what season do you seem to resonate most with?
yeah, that's a good question. Whenever I hear that question, I always flash back on um, Michael Moore's documentary "Roger and Me." I don't know if you ever
Mm.
saw that. There's a he was tempted to call it "Pets or Meat," uh, because there's a woman that he interviews in there who's struggling to maintain her financial stability, and she has pet rabbits that she sells people,
Oh,
but they're pets slash fryer rabbits as well. So she's like, well, they're pets or meat, and he's like, well, that's us, because
right.
GM was going belly up, and that was who he was trying to interview was the CEO of GM. And so he's like, yeah, the people are pets or they're meat, one or the other category. Kind of dark. Anyway, long roundabout way of answering your question, but there's another person in there, or maybe it's the same one, and she also assesses people's appearances and categorize them as either winter people or summer, and then there's some other layer there,
Right.
and so she talks about herself as being a whatever person, and then halfway through the movie she comes back and says, actually I was wrong, I'm a different kind of person, and so the whole assessment has to change and everything. It's amusing. um I mostly I like the beginning of fall, like that transition.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a fifth season person, Indian summer kind of person, when it's still warm during the day, but you get the crisp nights kind of thing. Colors start to change. So, but I don't know that there's parts I like too. I really like when spring takes off and the green comes back, and
Mhm.
I like being able to experience the seasons. I guess is maybe my
Yeah.
best response. All of them are fun. So, how about
Well,
you?
as you know, here in Southern California, we don't have much of that opportunity to really have um, different seasons. It's
Yeah,
just it's either hot. Excuse me. It's either hot or it's cold here,
right,
and every once in a great while it rains. So
right, right. That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
That's true. Yes, indeed. So before we get started and introduce ourselves a little bit more, I thought I would mention our disclaimer, which is that the Psychic Funhouse and its agents are here to entertain you and educate you in the ways of the psychic. We're not here presenting ourselves as legal advice givers or financial advice
Okay.
givers. Uh oh, you all right? Somebody get you?
I don't know what that was. That
Uh,
was,
Did a spirit show up unexpectedly?
woo.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. That was, I'm
Okay.
not sure what that was. That was weird.
Okay. The earth
Okay.
isn't shaking. You're not having an earthquake, are you? Okay. All right. Anyway, so if you're
Sorry.
here to be that's all right. As long as you're okay.
Yeah.
If you're here to be educated and entertained, that's what we're here to provide for you. So everything else you should seek a professional for. So next order of business before we get to tonight's topic will be to inform you about how to contact us after the show if you're interested in taking advantage of any of our services. So, Adrian, what's your uh, dog energy?
Yeah.
Uh, what's your
Excuse me
contact
for a minute.
information you'd like to share? Yeah. No, that might be your guest. Maybe you'll first. Okay. Let's uh let's start with my information, shall we? Why don't we do that? Um so uh my name, in case you haven't figured it out, is Lawrence Birch. And uh, the services that I offer are psychic services. I also do tarot readings. I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'm a certified clinical herbalist. So you can contact me at 541 344 7534. You can call, you can text, regular business hours, Monday through Friday, Pacific Coast time. You can also contact me through my email, which is givingtree at earthlink.net. Please check out my website. It's got a more thorough uh, listing of my services and what I do, classes I'm offering, events I'm taking part in, that sort of thing. And that is can be found at givingtreefarm.com. And finally, I have a Facebook page, which is Giving Tree Farm Herb Company. You can take a look at. So that is how to find me. So there you go. Um, so while we're waiting for Adrian to return, there she is. Okay.
Hi.
Um,
So,
hey,
sorry about that.
that's okay. You had business to attend to.
Yes, yes, indeed. Dog business.
That's good timing. I was just going over my contact information, and so now you get to do the same.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if anyone is interested in contacting me for a private session, I do in-person readings as well as Zoom and telephone readings. Best way to like check me out, learn more about my fees and services, look at my website. That's what I would recommend, which is ravenmessages.com. You can also go to my Facebook page, which is the same name, Raven Messages. And there's some information there as well, especially about some upcoming events. So, yeah. By the way, my telephone number, in case you want to give me a call or send me a text, is 714-376-7289.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good. And do you have any events coming up anytime soon?
Well,
Or
I'm so glad that you asked.
you usually are?
Yes. So, yes, on the 28th, which is the
Mhm,
last Saturday of the month, I'll be at
mhm,
the OC Holistic Fair, which is at the Laguna Wellness Center in Laguna Woods. And I'll
mhm,
be there from 11 a.m. until approximately 5 p.m. doing readings.
mhm,
There's lots of different healers and practitioners there. Everybody charges different fees, and there's also
mhm.
a lot of free stuff. So
Uh-huh.
if you're in the area, come on by.
We like free stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely, we do.
What's the head count there in terms of people offering their craft? Do you have a dozen people, a couple dozen? Does it vary or?
Gosh, yeah, there's well, last I heard there was 40
Oh
uh
wow.
40 different people, but some of those are also online virtual
Oh okay.
people that are affiliated. But
Oh nice.
yeah,
So this is an online event too. You can take advantage of if you're not
yes.
there physically. Oh
Mm-hmm.
nice. Okay. And they can just
Mm-hmm.
go to the Laguna Woods Heart Space Healing Center website, I assume, to
Yeah,
find
I
that
think
out.
that's a good place to look.
Okay. Yeah, we should remember to mention that because a lot of our viewers are not in Southern California and they might want to check things out on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
that's it for the time being.
Okay. All right. Well, so tonight we're kind of mining the same or at least a similar vein as we have been the last few weeks during our show. Um, we've been talking about um, how to find a good psychic and what to watch out for and things of that nature. So tonight we're going to talk about questions you can ask your psychic. 20 questions to present to your psychic, so you can get the most out of your session, and so it can help you think about how you want to frame your experience with your practitioner. And these are just kind of a guideline. They're not hard and fast things that you must ask, but sometimes people get caught up in the moment and they just kind of everything goes out the window and they're not really sure what they want when they find themselves sitting across from the person they're hoping to get some useful in-depth information from. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also just kind of a guide excuse me, to help you focus on maybe things that are more meaningful than just kind of superficial questions. People can kind of um, sometimes fall into one or two categories where they come to us and it's sort of like, this is really a bad analogy because I'm going to turn this into automobiles, but it's like, it's like being given a Maserati and driving it like it's a tricycle, right? So you want to really you know um, be really judicious about the energy that you're accessing, right? Because this isn't, and really shouldn't be, something that you do necessarily every day with somebody, right? It's something that should really, be a point of concentration that can help feed you for the rest of the year, potentially, or at least for a while before you come back again, unless you have another need. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, and of course, if you're watching us and you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can post that in the chat session, and we do uh, offer live readings before the end of the show, most shows. So we're happy to provide that for people too. Um, you can pose one of the questions that we're going to put out there if you'd like, or one of your own if you have a better one. Um, so maybe we'll start off with what not to ask, or what's going to be maybe not as helpful but as commonly asked by people. One of the topics that we are frequently tasked with helping people investigate is relationships,
Yeah.
right? People want to know, what's going on with their relationship, or when will they have a relationship. That's a very common question too. Or why isn't their relationship providing them with everything that they asked for, or wanted, or expected, kind of a thing. And so oftentimes what happens is um, our clients will show up and they'll be really concerned about the affection that's passing between them and their partner, and so they'll often ask a question, something along the lines of, "Do they love me? Does this person love me?" Right? And you might think that's a great question to ask because I just want to know. Um, and while that can lead to maybe some productive exploration between you and the client and spirits, uh, it's often not necessarily the most productive question to ask. Um, Part of what happens when I have a client that asks me that is, you know, sometimes I'll bring this up in a way if I feel like the client can receive it well, and I can ask it in a way that seems supportive and not dismissive, which is, what do you think? Do you think they love you? Um, you know, if you're coming to a psychic session and you're not sure if your partner or spouse or loved one has feelings of affection for you, that should be a red flag right there, right? You know, and it shouldn't necessarily take a psychic to help you figure that out if they are, feeling for you. Now, there could be some more deeper questions about your relationship that maybe, you know, you haven't quite figured out yet. Like, have you and this person shared some history before, even some past life before? Are there things about this person that are compatible or not compatible that you're not seeing? Why is there friction in my relationship? How can I love this person more? How can they love me more? Um, if we're able to kind of steer the discussion into meaningful questions and directions like that, then I think it's going to be, more productive than, feeding potentially that insecurity that we all have at some point or another in a relationship, which is, you know, am I losing the affections of this person, or do they really care about me? Which is, uh, it's a valid question. I'm not saying that it isn't. It's just maybe isn't as helpful as you might think. Um, at first glance. I don't know. What do you think, Adrienne? Am I missing the mark, or
No,
do you have a
I
different
mean,
perspective?
I feel
I like
like
that face you're making. Like really
you know,
thinking. Like,
we all have our own styles and bring forward messages or um, yeah, messages, intuitive messages, um, similar but different sometimes. And so I like what you were saying in terms of like the questions can be deeper. They can be even redirected to um, to highlight many areas. I personally
mm-hmm,
have clients that ask from time to time, uh, is this person like really attracted to me? Is this person does this person love me?
mm-hmm,
I get asked those kinds of questions because I seem to do a lot. Well, in different phases, anyhow, it seems like relationship questions. And while sometimes I have to just be honest. I mean, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I can't determine that.
mm-hmm,
Um, and sometimes I do.
mm-hmm,
Especially if that should come across very strongly. I
mm-hmm,
will report that. I will
mm-hmm,
convey that. That
mm-hmm,
the sense, the feeling, the intuitive feeling that I have is that yes, this person is committed to you. This person really does love you and is happy about the relationship. But if I don't get that, certainly I'm not going to tell someone.
Mm-hmm.
I won't would not lead another person on in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Yeah,
was thinking,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah,
That uh you know, clients will ask us something about a person that's not there physically, and unless they're getting a mediumship reading, where you're contacting that person's spirit or something,
right,
it can be challenging to, first of all, go into that other person's, you know, consciousness without their direct permission, for one thing,
absolutely.
and then just to get that information if they're not there. So, that's just something to keep in mind, that it's much more productive, and you're helping your psychic out if the questions that you're asking are you based.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming from you, about you, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily about another party, somebody that's not there with you,
Right.
somebody that we're not necessarily going to be able to get a lot of detailed information about, because they're not there with us in session.
Mm-hmm.
um, and people get disappointed, and sometimes bent out of shape about that, because
Mm-hmm.
they think we should be able to go into everybody's consciousness at will and just play around in there like it's our own personal playground. It's like, well, you know that's not necessarily the most ethical process. Some psychics will do it, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
they are being authentic, or maybe they're not being as authentic, but um you know that's one way to kind of find out if your psychic or a spiritual guide has some ethical boundaries around, if they will kind of put a box around things and say, this is what I'm going to be able to do, this is what I'm not going to be able to do for you, and if you're disappointed, then we can always you know end the session, and you can see somebody else. I mean, if you have to get that abrupt, but hopefully not. you know so, but I interrupted you, sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. No, I was just going to say that in some situations, in some situations, well, let me put it to you this way:
Hmm.
honesty is always the most important thing.
Yeah.
And uh, again, I would never just lead somebody on and tell them, share falsehoods just because I thought that's what a client wanted to hear.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes, sometimes based on what a client is um, uh, projecting or showing up in terms of energetically, I can get a good sense of what that, maybe the direction of the relationship, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
what's happening there. And, but usually that focus is not going to be on the partner that's not there. Focus is usually on the person that I'm providing a reading for.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, I will talk about the fact that what joy and love, happiness, all of that is an inside job. Has to start
Mm.
there first anyway.
I like the way
And
you frame that. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and so it's like so how are you loving yourself these days?
Right.
Type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think and I don't blame people at all for, coming to us with that, as a starting point, because that's kind of how we're taught to look at things, right? Is there's this external thing, whether it's a person or an object, something outside of us, that if we only manifest it, or if we just contact it or touch it, or if we're able to bring it into our life, it's going to change things, and then we're going to be happy, and everything's going to come up roses and lollipops, gumdrops, rainbows, and all that stuff. And it's like, well, um it makes sense that having a connection to something will make a difference in your life. I wouldn't, discount that.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, if you're not in a place where you're able to receive it and recognize it and acknowledge it and give it a place to grow, all those things that are required to have, a healthy living relationship,
Mm-hmm.
then uh, you know, every anything and everything can happen where you won't even see it when it's there, or if you do recognize it, you're not going to be able to sustain it. And
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that I think psychics are here to help you consider and you know begin really exploring it in more depth, which is what are the things under my control, meaning you, the client, that I can actually take control of,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge, take responsibility for, and then begin to really examine and see, are there things I could be doing better? How am I getting in my own way? That kind of thing, rather than, well, does this person love me or not? You know, well, what if they do? Then what happens? You know,
Yeah, right.
uh, but,
Absolutely.
you know, you know,
Well, one of the other questions that I get sometimes is, why do I keep attracting the same kind of person? Right.
yeah, uh-huh,
And then, and then that's a perfect question for a psychic, you know,
uh-huh,
um, because
hmm,
then you really get an opportunity to help that person, look at a wide variety of things, everything from what is it they're resisting,
hmm,
why am I blocking?
hmm,
Why is there that need for, high drama or adrenaline or of course, um, what is your feelings about your self-worth? And are you or do you feel deserving of being treated well,
hmm,
being loved? And I think, like I've told you before, for me, it's like, much earlier in my life, if you treated me well, I thought you were boring, right?
yeah, right,
So it's like,
hmm,
it's a good example of like not having very healthy self-esteem at that time. I did not, and
right,
um so that's, to me, that's a really good question when people ask me that. Why
uh-huh,
do I keep attracting the same person?
hmm.
Well, there's
Well, let's see. Yeah. Why
yeah.
is that? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, what other questions are good? Here's a good one. What's uh what's in my highest good to know right now?
Mhm.
Right? So that's a really nice place to start off with. You want to think about uh asking open-ended questions, kind of a balance between specific questions that you might have and questions that are open-ended enough to allow your psychic to really um, get in and take a look around at what the spirits are going to offer. Um, you know, asking your psychic, what's going to happen next Tuesday at 5 p.m. or what's the winning lottery number or the name of the horse that's going to come in, before everybody else. That's
Mhm.
not really going to be productive unless that's what your psychic does for you, which is, great. You pass them pass their number on to me so I can, start paying some debts. But more, like what are the things that I could be, really working on that I'm not,
Mhm.
or that I think I am, and that are really not being as productive for me as it could be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For me, a lot of times when I'm using oracle cards, tarot cards, that kind of information will show up,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and so it's, you know, and it's nice because for some people, you know, to have like a point of reference, you know, a card, the artwork on the card, whatever that is depicting, sometimes is also very helpful. And uh, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that shows up. It shows up in tarot card readings for
Mm-hmm.
me often.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see
Mm-hmm.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
I think my dogs are back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me for yeah.
All right.
Okay, excuse me for one moment.
We'll hold your place here. So yeah. So highest good. What does that even mean? Um, well, there's a concept out there that we're operating on several different levels, usually all at once. Some of them we're aware of, some of them maybe we're not so aware of. And there's a part of us that is kind of guiding us through our life story, making decisions along the way, which path to follow. What are we ready to receive? What do we need to work on? What are we challenged by? What are we going to challenge ourselves about? And it can be easy, or maybe tempting is another way to look at it, to stray off a path that's really the most productive for us. Sometimes we don't even know we've wandered off the path until we come to a dead end. We're like, oh, this isn't working. Now what do I do? Those are good moments to talk about with your psychic, and to get some insight into, right? We're a group species, no matter how introverted and hermetic we might be, um, for reasons. One of the biggest ones is we all suffer from self blindness. No matter how many mirrors we have around us, we need other people's perspective. Uh, we need people to give us a good, clear, hard boiled assessment of ourselves, that's compassionate, but also accurate and authentic, and can help us, make better decisions than we would be able to without that kind of input. So, accessing your higher self, that's something you can definitely do on your own, but it also helps, if you've got the perspective of somebody else who doesn't have skin in the game, maybe you do, and can just say, um, your higher self says, you really need to eat more ice cream. I think that's, what's going to project you into the next spiritual evolution, is to get more uh, either non-dairy or dairy ice cream into your life, right? So, so Adrian, we're still talking about the question about your highest good, and what your highest good is as a term. And I was using the example of, sometimes your higher self will tell you you need to eat more ice cream in order to evolve spiritually. If you're
Hmm.
not eating enough cold frozen foods. So I'm
Hmm.
kidding, obviously.
Yeah, you know, it's a great question.
Mhm.
Like I was saying, you know, a lot of times that will come forward in card readings, and you know, and it may be everything and anything from, you know, maybe what is really the next best thing for you is to spend some time with yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and to go within and
Mhm.
to find, you know, the blessings within, to learn
Mhm.
how to connect, you know, to your higher self, to the
Mhm.
source.
Mhm.
Maybe you know, so it's a variety of different things like that.
Mhm.
And all of that comes forward in readings. I mean, at least that's my experience with that particular question. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about another question. How about this one? What belief or perspective am I currently holding that might be holding me back or preventing me from moving forward? Right. That
Hmm.
can be a real big one. Right. Big
Hmm.
blind spot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's another great question, and one that lends itself to a lot of exploration, whether that be conversation that surfaces regarding a past life, and you know various things that a person may be holding on to. Um, it may be lost in family of origin issues, that are unresolved anger, shame, things of that nature. So it's
mhm,
that's a very good question, um, and certainly one that I know that I enjoy
mhm,
working with
mhm,
clients
mhm,
when they pose something like that.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really, it's exciting and gratifying, right? When we have a client who either because of their own, process, or maybe because part of our job as psychics is kind of teaching our
Hmm.
clients. I feel like that's part of our responsibility too.
Yeah,
And you can tell that they've interacted with some really top-notch professionals because they've helped them craft their questions in a way that's going to be really, really helpful for them and productive. There's nothing better than getting a great question from a client, right? That
yeah.
just sets the tone for how the session's going to go, and what we're going to be able to offer them, right? Um,
By the
so
way, one of the things I was just thinking about
yes.
is that sometimes I come across clients that don't have any particular questions.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, I'll say something like, so, especially if it's in an environment that we're like dealing with a 15-minute timetable type of thing.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
not much time really. But so, and
Right.
that's what I will tell the client. I'll say, you know what? We have 15 minutes. And so to utilize this time the best that we can,
Yeah.
what would you like to focus on? I don't
Right.
ask for details, but
Right.
focus.
Right. Right.
Well,
Right.
I don't really know. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes they'll say that I don't really know. I don't
Yeah.
care. I
Right.
just whatever comes up. Then it's
Right.
like, okay.
Right.
And then so sometimes it can be a wide variety of different things that will come forward as opposed to
Yeah.
something a more focused answer.
Yeah. Well, that's always a place where there's a little bit of pressure. You've got 15 minutes to kind of make a connection with each other, and I recognize that that's difficult. Uh you as the client have to show up and potentially bare your soul to this person who you've never met before, and trust that they're somebody you can do that with, and not uh you know come away feeling like, wow, that was a mistake on my part. And we as psychics have to create an environment where that kind of meaningful connection can happen. It's up to us to help make them feel comfortable. And when you got 15 minutes with somebody, and you can have it's not uncommon for one extreme or the other show up where you've got, that client you talked about where they're like, oh, I don't know, whatever, just
Yeah.
fill in and do the work for me, which is kind of
Yeah.
what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
They may not realize that's what they're saying, but they're like, yeah, you're the one, I'm paying you to do all, do everything. It's like, well, it's kind of it's a this thing, not a that thing.
Right.
Or you might have somebody on the other extreme, which is just like, I've got 15 questions that I want to ask. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I've had people show up literally with a notebook and a list, not in a 15-minute session, but they're like, and they just announce at the beginning, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this one. And I'm like, here we go. I just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
hit me, and they're just like, da da bam, da da bam, was that, Plymouth Fury that I bought in 1975 worth it? No, you
Yeah.
know, was, did grandma really like my brother better? Yes. Next question, that kind of thing. So it's just funny. Um, but, so it goes. Uh,
But you gotta love it, because it's like, it's the wherever that person is at that particular time.
hmm
It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all
Well,
right.
I think that's a good measure of a psychic is if they're able to meet the person where they're at, you know,
Absolutely.
and then also bring them along to a place so that by the time they leave the session with you, they have something to take away, right? Something
Hmm.
valuable, whatever that might be, and it
Hmm.
can be something that they totally didn't expect, or it
Yeah.
can be, something that really meets their needs, maybe needs that they didn't even come to the session uh, being aware of, but because that happens a lot too, we may have an agenda, client may have an agenda, but the spirits are the ones who have the, overarching control over the agenda. And if they have a different place that they want to take this client,
Hmm.
they are going to hammer away at what's going on until they pretty much get their way. That's been my experience,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, and that's
Oh
okay.
yeah.
And for us to recognize that usually isn't so difficult. It can be a challenge to convince the client otherwise, especially if they come in really attached to whatever their agenda or questioning is,
Hmm.
and you've
Hmm.
got spirits saying, you know what, that's really great, but what if we take a look at this, because this is what my guides are telling me,
Hmm.
is really going to be helpful for you. And
Hmm.
getting them to loosen up their hold on that a little bit enough to really take in what the message is, can be tricky, you know but
Yeah.
that's another skill. you know
Hmm. Hmm.
here's another question to consider asking your psychic. um, are there any wounds that I have, emotionally or mentally, psychically, in my past, or even, right now, currently, that if I could heal them, they'd make a, really positive change in my life, help me move forward. What are the wounds that I have that I need to work on still, kind of a thing. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
Man, that is just a really uh, wonderful question to be able to get invited to work with a
Sure.
client. That they have that sense of self to begin with, and then also feel that grounded to be able to open up that way.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
because that's
Absolutely.
we don't make it into adulthood without scar tissue, and sometimes that's healed and we can move on. Sometimes it reopens. Sometimes we think it's healed and it's really festering. Um, you know, uh, there's a lot of things that can happen when we get, um, you know, hurt. And
Yeah.
that can really, really manifest in ways that are just really, really curious. and people's responses. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
have you had clients come in with that kind of situation, or where the session ended up, you know, being more of a healing session maybe than
Yeah,
you anticipated?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I've had people come in with um, many years' experience, for example, in psychotherapy, and find
Hmm.
that they're still experiencing the same kind of symptomology, whether it be some low grade depression or it be anxiety.
Hmm.
Um, and on occasion, I've seen people with much more severe mental health issues,
Hmm.
and so it's to begin with, the very first thing that I'm going to do, is a little like mini, like little mini assessment. It's kind of like, well, where does it hurt? How is it hurting? And then kind of go from there.
Hmm.
And I also tell people that as working with energy, working with intuition, and in a spiritual realm, while some of it seems to be similar to more therapeutic, traditional therapeutic work, it's not the same. It's
Hmm.
different. And I am not one that really believes in trying to reinvent the wheel.
Hmm.
So I try to move clients along
Hmm.
and try to bring them uh, either in from the past to the
Hmm.
present, or out of the future and
Uh-huh.
into the present,
Right.
because I do think that that's where a lot of problems stem from. People are,
Hmm.
in the past are way out in the future,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
not in the here and the now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I really answered that question, but I hope I commented on it
Hmm.
enough. And it's a great question, and certainly provides a lot of room for work and conversation, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you said a lot of good stuff there, answering the question, Adrian. I'm reminded of a time, when we were doing our show on Blog Talk, the platform, and we had this really didn't happen very often, but when it did, it was really, really important, I think, to be as clear as possible with a client every once in a while, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, we'd have at that time on Blog Talk, that platform was only audio, so we'd have a caller, not people able to see us, but we'd have somebody engage with us who clearly was in some kind of mental health crisis, or about to be, or was just coming out of one, but there was something there that was needing to be addressed in a context that we couldn't provide them. Uh, and then, uh, somebody, one of the three, because we were a trio back then with Michael, who's here in spirit always. Um,
Yes, Michael.
yeah, and he's still very much here physically, just not on the show right now. Uh, but we're working to tempt him back. Um, it would befall one of us to bring that up with the client, say, hey, have you thought about maybe seeing a counselor? Or,
Hmm.
this feels like something larger than a session with us. And 10 or 20 minutes is going to be able to help you with. Do you have support? Do you feel safe? Or
Yeah.
all these things that we are really only going to be able to skim the surface over, going to get addressed once you leave our show. And how are you going to take care of that, or is there somebody there to help you take care of it? What's going on with that? um Rather than like, yeah, let's address all the voices that you're hearing that are telling you harmful things or whatever. It's like, yeah, I don't, prob- probably not for us to do that.
Right.
That's definitely, along with like financial advice and legal advice, that's somebody else needing to intervene there. you know and that can be really difficult because often what the person will hear is, are you calling me crazy? Or are you not addressing, why can't you answer my question? um that kind of a thing. So um
Mhm.
but that doesn't happen very often, fortunately. But
Right.
um it gets back to you being scrupulously honest. You're not doing the client any favors, or your practice or yourself any favors, karmically especially, if you lie to people. You don't have to tell them everything that your spirit guides say, right? We're the filter, so we get to do a little bit of softening the edges. Sometimes people really need a big, you know 3 alarm fire right in their face to get them to wake up. But
Yeah.
there's a way to do that that's still compassionate. But if you've got somebody who clearly is in crisis, they need to have that addressed by somebody who can address it. You have to know when to say, this isn't, you know, this isn't something I can help you with. Sorry. you know. So
It's true.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
I think I think it's so important, to have that professionalism, to have that moral compass, and
Hmm.
to recognize when, y- y- more of a, I guess, a therapeutic term would be scope, to know what your scope is,
Right.
you know, um, uh, and when you need to make a referral. And I
Hmm.
don't think there's anything wrong with that,
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something, as a psychic, having a referral, a good referral list handy, it can be a real lifesaver for you and for your client. Sometimes, literally, uh, people that you trust, you've worked with, you know, other psychics with other skills and abilities that complement yours, that you maybe, you know, um, don't necessarily dabble in, or that, will give people just a different perspective.
Mhm.
And then, professionals in other fields, that you can refer people to when
Yeah.
you get into an area that feels like it's not really appropriate for you
Mhm.
to work with.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think we got time for maybe one more question, because we've really been digging into these, which has been fun.
Yeah.
Here's a real basic but really potentially deep one. What do I need to let go?
Mhm.
you know what do I need to let go?
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, let it all go, right?
Yeah.
Attachments.
Mhm.
Oof. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're kind of designed to be attached, aren't we? I mean, isn't that the whole point? Form an attachment. If you didn't form an attachment when you were younger, you're going to be looking for it the rest of your life. That
That's
whole
right.
developmental concept.
Mhm.
um yeah, what can I let go? you know
And people a lot of times, I mean, I get questions like that. Um, and people will say, well, quite openly, that they have, are still carrying an attachment, like, to an ex,
hmm
uh, you know,
that's a common one. Yeah.
and really feel troubled by that. I
Mhm.
can't, I just can't seem to let go, even though I feel like I should or I need to.
Mhm.
And, there's so many different ways, to direct that conversation as well. But one of the things that I talk about, um, in many, I won't say all because not everybody's the same, but
Mhm.
certainly I talk about chords and the energetic chords that we have,
Mhm.
um, and some are there and they serve us, and
Mhm.
others not so much anymore. Maybe they never really did, and in which case I'll have some conversation about those chords and about what they are, and but also, and so then it'll always come down to, well, can you help me with them? I don't want them anymore, and so I, you know, we'll have conversation. But yes, absolutely, about
Mhm.
how do you
Right.
cut those?
Chomp. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Right.
but I
Yeah.
always tell people that if you do,
Mhm.
there's no going back. Or if you
Mm.
do go back, it won't be the same.
Right.
It's changed. It's changed for good. And
Yeah.
sometimes,
Good
what I
point.
have found is that people, yep, people definitely, I'm done. I want to do it. This is good, And
Yeah.
I've had a couple people where, no, that's all right, mate. I'm still trying to deal with it. Still, trying to
Mhm.
work it out. It's like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do. But
Yeah.
then again, it's sometimes or oftentimes it's that question about um, your worthiness,
Mhm.
your self worth. What do you feel about loving yourself and treating yourself well? And so it's kind of some conversations around that kind of thing will come up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I had this great image come up while you were talking about, cutting the cords is not just about, what happens in the moment. It's what happens afterwards, right?
yeah,
That now you've, broken that energetic tie between you and this other person, and that could be it, so
mm-hmm,
you're not going to have that,
mm-hmm,
and it's this thing about familiarity, right?
mm-hmm.
um Sometimes it's better to have something there that's familiar, even if it's a source of pain,
Absolutely.
than
So
to
true.
be than to have nothing, than to have
Yeah.
no, which is, I think, one of the big root causes of why people hang on to shit,
Mm-hmm.
is because they know it. They know what it is, they keep going over it over again
Mm-hmm.
because it's a source of familiarity, even though it's a source of antagonism for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's that part of their mind that's saying, well, if I give this up and actually move into an area where I'm healed now and I don't have to, obsess about this or whatever it is, I don't know what that's like, and it
Right.
scares
Then
me.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
this thing that I hate, I also love it because it gives me all this stuff to look at and be distracted by. And it's like, oh my
Right.
God, how do we get you out of that? But I had this image of a tape measure, that you stretch out like the cord, and then you're asking them, okay, are you ready to pull that back? Right? Are you ready to get rid of that finally? And then for the people that say yep, they just click that button and snap, it rolls right back
Yeah.
into the case. That's it. So
That's good. I like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, can you believe it? We made it through another hour without tornadoes, floods, or you know
Yeah.
invasions from outer space. So
Yeah. Yeah.
another really lovely session with you, Adrian. I'm really enjoying the
Oh,
work that we're doing
always
here.
enjoy conversing with you and sharing
Hmm.
ideas and experiences, Lawrence. So
Yeah,
great.
yeah. We didn't get to all 20 questions, but that's okay. We can pick that
Yeah.
up another time. That was productive. I will remind
Absolutely.
our viewers that next week we will be having our first guest on the show, and that will be Sky. She's going to talk about her shamanic practice and experience with everybody, and hopefully take some questions, and we'll do some readings and see if we can coax her to work with our audience.
Yeah.
So make sure you're here for our first uh, guest interview show. That'll be a really great
Yeah.
new experience for people that haven't had that before. So looking forward to that. So we'll see you next week for that. Meanwhile, now that we're at the end of the show, we're gonna give you our contact information and let you know how to reach us, and also let you know upcoming events that are happening. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
being here. So Adrian, what's a good way
Sure.
to get in touch with you? Contact
Yep.
info.
Check out my website
Hmm.
for information about events, my services, my fees, which is ravenmessages.com. Facebook page, also the same name. You can call me or text me if you'd like to schedule a session with me. I see people in person, do Zoom and telephone calls. My phone number is area code 714-376-7289. And also, real quick, if you're in town, come and check me out on the 28th of this month. That's it, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the OC Heart Space Holistic Fair at Laguna Woods Healing Center. See you then. Thank you, Lawrence. And how about you?
Yeah. Definitely check them out. And as Adrian was mentioning, if you can't attend in person at the Laguna Woods Fair, you can attend virtually. So
Yeah.
check out their website and connect with Adrian over Zoom potentially, or another healer there. Uh, really good group of people. Um, yeah, you can contact me by going to my website, givingtreefarm.com. It's got all my contact information. You can also just call or text me directly, 541-344-7534 is the number to put in your contact info under best psychic in the world, or one of them anyway. And my email is givingtree@earthlink.net. And my Facebook page is Giving Tree Farm Herb Company, because I'm also a purveyor of the green herbalism energy. Yo. So there you have it. Lots of options. Well, yeah, that felt like it just flew right by. We had
Did.
so much good stuff to discuss. So I'm excited for next week when we get to have
Yeah,
our guests
that'll
on.
be great. Be good to
Yeah,
see her.
yeah, and really glad Adrian could be here tonight. So uh, happy to have her and her mascots along. So, all
Yeah,
right, everybody,
very
thanks.
cool.
Yeah,
All
thanks for
right.
watching us, and we will catch you next week for sure.
Yeah.
Remember, we're here 6 to 7 p.m. every Friday Pacific Standard Time. Check out our YouTube channel, The Psychic Funhouse. Got a lot of
And
great
tell a
videos up
friend.
there. Yeah, please do, and come back and see us again.
Okay. All right, Lawrence. Bye.
Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Good night, my friend. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Au revoir.